Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Henchman's Memoirs. This week on Encounter Design, we are doing an ambush from a group of chokers for our party, but we are going to be spicing it up with dynamic terrain, relentless time pressure, and an intriguing twist on the monster's abilities, like we do every week, to keep your players guessing and to make more memorable fights. If you enjoy this kind of content, let us know by giving us a like, giving us a subscribe, and especially by leaving a comment. We thrive on engagement and interaction, and we love to know that you're enjoying what we're doing. So I've liked the choker ever since it was first introduced in first edition, and I've especially been looking forward to using them ever since I got a hold of these print and play minis from the Index Card RPG. So these things are meant to go into the Pathfinder pawn like this, so that they're literally reaching down from the ceiling the same way they are in the thumbnail for this video. So we're going to be doing an encounter for maybe 5th level characters. We're going to keep most of the stats the same, actually, except we might make the damage more like 2d8 plus 3 instead of 1d4 plus 3. But we're going to be doing enough interesting stuff with the monster's abilities to sort of keep it memorable. So this encounter can be used anytime your party is moving through a dungeon corridor. They could be in the Underdark. They could be even the way I did it, in a haunted house. And as they enter the corridor and we're trying to kick the encounter off, the first thing you're going to do by way of setup is you're going to describe, as they come around this corner, that there's this sort of oppressive gloom in this hallway. There's this sort of encroaching, almost claustrophobic darkness that seems to restrict their light sources and so forth. Now, immediately, as soon as you say that, several party members are going to have to chime in with the fact that they have dark vision. That's okay. Let them have their moment. And just describe this vague sort of sense that the darkness is kind of closing in. And then you're going to start the encounter. You're not going to ask them, so what do you do? Anything like that. As soon as you've described this encroaching darkness, you're going to start the encounter. And you're going to do that by rolling an attack on each party member. Before you even roll initiative, you're going to roll an attack and you're going to describe these hands coming down out of the gloom and reaching for each character's throat. Now, the way they've been described ever since the beginning is kind of, they have these rubbery arms with these sort of weird starfish hands at the end. I was running this in Ravenloft, so I described these ordinary hands, except like the fingers were really unnaturally long and the hand was kind of emaciated and discolored. And then you see this forearm come out and it's all sort of emaciated, and then the elbow, and then another forearm, right? All thin and gangly, and then another elbow, and this one's like turned 90 degrees, and then another forearm, and this kind of weird conglomeration reaches down from the ceiling and reaches at each person's throat. So when you roll these attacks, you're going to have advantage because they're attacking from the shadows and they have surprise. You're going to roll with advantage, and hopefully you're going to get some hits. So whoever is hit by these things, and I want to say, I did one for each party member. That's kind of the default. If you're worried that your party might have a little bit of trouble, you can do one less than the number of party members. That makes a big difference here, because a key to this encounter is going to be individual party members helping each other out, helping them survive the encounter. But you roll these attacks and you see how many hits you get. If you get a hit, that person takes the damage. As I said, I would make it more than it is listed in the player's handbook. But they immediately need to make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw. DC 13, DC 14, something like that. And when they make that save, if they fail, they start to strangle. Okay, they're being strangled. We're introducing this new mechanic for strangulation because suffocation in 5e takes so long that it really doesn't even affect the battle. You can hold your breath through a whole battle, pretty much, in 5e, and never have to really make a check. So we're going to be introducing a strangulation mechanic here. You could also use this with anything that is trying to choke or throttle your characters. Back in first edition, the Revenant, I think it was, when it got a hold, it might have been the Coffer Corpse, when it gets a hold of you, it starts choking you, and you could even cut its hand off, cut its arm in half, and it still continues to choke you until you get these hands off of your throat. So I like that idea, and that's what we're going to be doing here. They go ahead and they make that DC 13 Constitution saving throw when they get hit. If they fail, they enter the first sort of stage of strangulation, which is they lose concentration on any concentration spells. They can't cast new concentration spells, and they can't breathe or speak. So they can't cast any spells with a verbal component. They can't say anything or use any powers that require them to speak. That's mostly going to affect the spellcasters, but it is kind of a flavor thing, and it introduces the first phase. Now, what you can do, you could even tell the party what the 4 stages of strangulation are as they start making these saves. But every turn, when their turn comes around, if the grapple is still on them, they need to make another DC 13 Constitution saving throw. If they fail a second one, they're dazed. That's the same as being slowed from the MCDM book, where you can only take an action, a bonus action, or move on your turn, which they can't move in this case while they're grappled anyway. So that's not too bad. If they fail a third one, they are starting to black out. They're blinded, so they have disadvantage on all kinds of things. They can't use spells that require them to see the opponent, things like that. If they fail a 4th strangulation save, they are dead. They don't start making death saving throws. They are already dead when they fail that 4th save. This is not as harsh as it sounds because they already have had to fail 4 saves instead of 3, which is death saving throws. And they are able to have their friends help them and so forth. So they get grabbed. They have to make that first Constitution save, and then we're going to roll initiative. So let's say we get Leibniz is up first, then Van Richten, then the monsters, then Esmeralda, then bringing up the rear is yours truly, the henchman. So Leibniz is up first in the initiative. He can try to attack the arms, obviously. They only have like a 16 armor class. They only have like 13 hit points, so 1 or 2 hits should do it. You can give him a little bit more if your party does a lot of damage, but the thing he can't try to do is actually break the grapple. So ordinarily you can just roll an escape check, or you can roll a strength athletics check or something to try to break the grapple. If they try to do that, I would describe them kind of reaching up and sort of trying to grab and pull the fingers away from around their neck. These hands are big enough, they're kind of wrapped all the way around your neck, and they're just squeezing. And I would describe they can't even get their hand inside. It's dug so far into their flesh. They can't even get their fingers in to sort of pry the fingers loose from around their neck. Now, I wouldn't make them lose a action, right? If they decide, I'm going to try to break the grapple, I would describe them taking their free hand and trying to pull at the fingers, and I'd say there's nothing you can do. So what do you want to do instead? They still have their action. Let them go ahead and attack the hands. So assuming that let's say both of these guys got hit, they're trying to break free, they're trying to attack the arms, they're trying to figure out what they want to do. The monster's turn comes around. Now we're going to apply our relentless time pressure. You might think that strangulation is time pressure enough, but that's the twist on the monster's ability. Our time pressure is when the monster's turn comes around, so I would say they automatically hit if the grapple is still happening, so you take some more damage, but then you start to get pulled up into the blackness at the top of the corridor. Like your feet come off the ground on the monster's turn, and you are 5 feet up and being reeled in towards the darkness. All right. So this makes for a more dynamic fight because it's a lot harder to help your ally. It's a lot harder for Esmeralda to get over here and rescue Van Richten if he's 5 feet off the ground and she can't necessarily reach up to attack the arm. So she's got to think of something. She's got to throw this axe or something, right? So basically what's going to happen is people are going to be getting cut down. They're going to be available to help each other. But in the meantime, the people who are still grappled are going to be being lifted higher and higher. So that will go on if somebody is grappled. So basically, I'm saying it's a 20-foot high hallway, and you're getting lifted 5 feet every round. So by the fourth round, like by the third round, if anybody is still being grappled and lifted up, I would describe, and I did describe because this happened to one of the guys in our group, I would describe this weird, intense feeling of intergalactic cold, sort of coming down from the darkness. And as they look up into this darkness, like they see sort of atrocious, awful shapes kind of forming in this black mist. And they have this real sense that they don't want to get reeled in by this darkness, right? I would say on the fourth round, you're kind of halfway in the Shadowfell. Like you're seeing the horrors of the dark dimension, right? If you don't get rescued by the next monster's turn, that character is just gone. There is no bringing back somebody who gets reeled in by these chokers and taken all the way to the dark dimension, which is kind of our twist on the terrain. That's kind of our dynamic terrain, is this idea that this darkness is not just a darkness spell. It's not just something you just so happen to not be able to see through with your dark vision. It's literally sort of a portal to the far realm or the dark dimension or something. And so the party's going to get pulled towards it. So it creates an interesting encounter. It gives them an interesting chance to use some abilities. I would also definitely make it so that these things are strong enough to pick up anybody in the party, but they're not strong enough to lift 2 people. So if Leibniz is unfortunate enough to be this far up in the air, the henchman can drop all of this equipment that he's carrying, leap up and kind of grab him around the knees. And as long as he holds on, I wouldn't make it a very hard strength check. As long as he holds on, they will gradually be sort of lowered as the arm tries harder and harder to lift and strangle Leibniz. But now with 2 people on there, it's not strong enough. And so you can kind of get him back into range for the rest of the party to sort of help them. So that's the encounter. Like I say, if you like what we're doing, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and please join us next time for the Henchman's Memoirs.